You are watching How to Cake It. I'm Yolanda, and this week I'm going to cake Chip from Beauty and the Beast. Now make sure to watch to the very end of this episode because I am doing a Beauty and the Beast giveaway. I've taken my cakes out of their pans, leveled them, simple syruped them with the help of Sir Squeeze, filled them with ganache, and built them up to one big cake that I'm going to carve Chip out of. I did place a board sort of halfway up my cake to help with the structure. And yes, you may have noticed I'm making Chip out of chocolate chip cake. If you're inspired by my cakes and want to up your own caking game, then head to the Kin Community channel to watch my episode of Need It. I share my 5 must-have baking and caking tools. I didn't put you on the list, Jocelyn. It's time to carve Chip. Chip is ready to cut. I'm gonna carve Chip beginning with him upside down. For those of you who might be living under a rock, Chip is a teacup, and he's one of the amazing characters in Beauty and the Beast. Because he's upside down, what you want to do is sort of round out the top, what is now the top of him, and cut down in an A-line fashion, but more like a bell. He's got some more body, he's not just straight. It's always hard to carve a cake that's sort of top heavy. That's why I like to do it upside down, and then... Did you see that? Did you see that combination right there?
That was good.
I know. Please help me get to 3 million subs by subscribing to this YouTube channel. And hit the notification bell so you know when I've baked a fresh new cake. Once I'm happy with my shape, I crumb coat and chill Chip. Use my Italian meringue buttercream, of course. I did the ballroom dance for Holiday Barbie. Now I'm gonna just do it again in my chair. I love making character cakes, so if you want to check them out, there's a playlist right over here.
Wink, wink.
I use my Italian meringue buttercream once again to ice Chip and chill him one more time. Now Chip is like a cup made out of fine china, and if you look at him closely, he's kind of like gently cracking, if you know what I mean. So what I wanted to do to begin to create this effect is cover him in a very light blue fondant so that later on that color sort of comes through in the cracking. I feel like it's the teacup equivalent of wrinkles.
Yes, but he's a young boy.
He is. It's okay, it's a fantasy. We're talking about a talking teacup. I roll out my light blue fondant to 1/8 of an inch thin, pick it up with a French rolling pin, and carefully drape it over Chip. And then I smooth it all around with my hands and cut away some of the excess at the bottom, but not right flush up against the cake. Now, the top edge of Chip, it's not just a perfectly round circle. That's why I didn't trim the fondant perfectly. What I did do is make myself a template by first tracing the circle of the cake pan I used to bake Chip onto a large piece of parchment paper. Then I folded the template up and used a small cake pan to sort of create a wavy line around that circle. And then with scissors, I cut it out and unfolded it and used the outer portion of the parchment as my stencil, laying it over Chip. And I secured it down with a few pins, pushing them down into my cake board. And then I used a sharp paring knife to cut along those wavy lines.
Would you have ever done this just by hand?
No, because then the waves wouldn't have been exact. I don't do...
You don't do inexact waves?
Any opportunity to use rulers, templates, some kind of measurement, I take it. This cake needs some dowels inserted in the bottom. I insert them in a circular formation using 6 dowels, and what they're going to do is once he's flipped right side up, they're going to support the cake that lays on top of the middle board. I need to flip Chip!
Flip Chip!
That was a bad wink. That was a blink.
Orhan, can you please replay that in slow motion?
Thank you, Orhan. A teacup is empty. I mean, unless there's tea in it, but really it's empty. So I need to make this cake look like there's tea in it so that, well, it can actually be made out of cake. Because if it were empty, this would not be how to cake it. So what I did after I flipped it was use a small serrated knife to sort of carve the top portion of the cake. So I'm holding my knife across the cake with the point in the center and just carving downward and all the way around the cake. And no, Jeremy didn't have any cake scraps. He didn't even ask.
For chocolate chip cake?
I'm
Oh
being
my God.
sarcastic.
Oh.
Now, if you want these great recipes, there is a link over here. Now, I also need to cover this carved out portion of the cake with my light blue fondant. So I give it a quick crumb coat, no chill. Sorry. And then I roll out more of my light blue fondant, nice and thin, lay it on top and smooth it within the cup. And then guess what happened? I flipped Chip!
You didn't wink that time.
I flipped Chip again.
Again.
And what I did was cut away the excess fondant from the top to match my pre-measured wavy lines that I cut previously. And then I flipped Chip back.
Oh my gosh.
Chip is just flipping around. Now I'm going to take the opportunity. Now, it's like so dramatic.
I
Must take the opportunity to pinch the fondant together. Okay, now traditional teacups have a little bit of a base that sits in the saucer and the teacup stands on. I made it out of a styrofoam dummy. It's more secure because this cake is top heavy. I need to carve the edges of this cake dummy in an A-line fashion. I used a small sharp serrated knife to just gently carve away the styrofoam, creating the base of the teacup. When I was happy with the shape, I did ice the sides and the top of the styrofoam with a bit of royal icing. This helps to sort of fill in all the little bumps because styrofoam isn't as smooth as you think it is. And then I covered that dummy with the same light blue fondant that I covered my cake in. I wanted to add a little more detail to the top of the teacup as well as the bottom of the base of the cup. So what I did is I used my clay extruder and a semicircle faceplate. I extrude some tubes and then I added them to the top of the teacup along the scallopy line, just with a little bit of clear piping gel as glue, and I smooth it in to blend it. Then I added another tube of fondant to the base of the styrofoam portion of the cake, again gluing it on with piping gel. It's time to assemble this cake, so I'm going to add the cake portion of Chip to the styrofoam base, and I can secure that top cake into this base with a dowel. I need to make Chip's handle, which I think is his nose. I made his handle out of white gum paste that I rolled into a tube, and then I inserted a floral wire down the center of that tube. And then I sculpted the handle by bending it and shaping it like a teacup handle. I did make this teacup handle a few days in advance so I could let it dry. I'm not applying the handle right now, but I do need to insert it and leave a mark on the cake so that I know where it will go later, and that way I'll be able to sculpt in his face. The next thing I need to do is make the indents of Chip's face. I was nervous about this. I begin by sculpting his mouth. I just used a couple of circle cutters and I indented them into the cake. I love using circle cutters for mouths. For his eyes, I also used a circle cutter because they're kind of like little half moons. So I used a small circle cutter indented on either side of where the handle will go, and then I just sort of pressed the fondant within those indents inside to give them more depth. Again, I used the circle cutters just to create the little eyebrow lines above both his eyes. I did use a sculpting tool to just help perfect all of the indents I made on Chip's little face. It's time for me to do the thing I really don't want to do. I have to cut out Chip's chip from the chocolate chip cake. So I take a knife to Chip and I just cut out a triangle of cake at the top of his little face. I really wanted to fix his chip, I'm not gonna lie. I did crumb coat the inside of the chip with a smidgen of buttercream, and then I rolled out a little piece of my light blue fondant once again and filled the inside of that chip and just trimmed away any excess with a sharp paring knife. Now, I need to paint Chip. I need to paint him white so that the light blue color is sort of what comes through on the white, through his cracking, and there's just sort of like, I want it to look like China. To paint Chip, I used a mixture of white food coloring with some cornstarch and a bit of clear food grade alcohol. I mixed it all together, and I did want to make it slightly sort of off-white and more bone china colored. So I added a little bit of ivory and black food coloring just to tint my white. Then I painted it all over the surface of this teacup cake with a soft paintbrush. And as it dries naturally, it reveals little tiny cracks. The only part I didn't paint was the very sort of top center, because later it will be filled with tea. Chip has a pattern. It's at the top of his cup, and he has sort of like a fine light blue detail at the top of his cup. So what I decided to do is use a fondant mold and some more of my light blue fondant and press it into the various sort of damask shapes of the mold. Now I'm going to apply all these pieces, trying to sort of recreate or resemble Chip's pattern along his head. It's kind of like his hairline, I guess. It's like his bangs. Yeah, I think so. I want to embellish the blue pattern a little bit further, so I use some light blue luster dust mixed with clear alcohol and just painted over all of those blue pieces. Time to add the gold detail to this cup. I feel like all traditional china has some gold. So I used some gold luster dust mixed with clear alcohol once again, and I painted, you know, like the bottom rim and the top rim and a few details like brightening up his eyes. He has golden eyes. Chip has golden eyes. Think of the new Chip in the new Beauty and the Beast. Do you think there are viewers who don't know it's a new Beauty and the Beast?
Probably.
This just occurred to me. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that there is a Beauty and the Beast giveaway. If you want to win that, hit the notification bell and leave a comment below using the hashtag #NotificationSquad. I'm going to be choosing someone randomly. Chip needs to be filled with tea. That must be so hot for Chip. To make my tea, I'm using royal icing, thinned out with some water, and I'm going to dye it, well, a tea sort of brown. I feel like he would be filled with like English breakfast. I spread this mixture on top of Chip, leaving a little bit to drip out of his chip. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to this channel. And if you want to win the Beauty and the Beast giveaway, hit the notification bell and leave a comment below with the hashtag #NotificationSquad. Now I have to eat Chip. I don't just cake like a beast. I eat cake like a beast.
You're so weird.